I thought I'd do a quick tutorial on how to containerize Python in Docker. Um, this should be pretty quick. I figured if you want to do a minimalist way, you could do it like this. Um, you've got three files. Basically, you've got your script, right? I'm just printing hello world. The Docker file, which is going to act as the container, and then Docker Compose, which is just for ease of use to getting it up and down, calling it without having to specify any kind of parameters or anything like that. Okay, so that's self-explanatory, but we'll come back to this. Okay, the Docker file, just absolute minimum, get the slimmest image you can. So we're saying from Python Slim, the latest, sort of, it's not like alpha or beta, but it's a generally available, like, stable version. Later, it's a late model edition here. Setting the workdir to app, so that's what it's going to be inside the container /app. You could put anything you want there. I'm copying script.py here in the local into the container at the workdir. So dot is just the local, so it'll be tossed right in there, boom, into app. The entry point is Python. That just means that's the interpreter. Entry point is the same as saying interpreter. So typically, like, if you build an out-of-the-box like Ubuntu image or something like that, the entry point will become default as like the shell, or whatever, the bash shell or the sh or shell or whatever. So entry point will be like /bin/sh and then -c, which just means they're expecting a string as the input for the argument whenever you command. Okay, command is whatever you're calling here. So we're calling this file script.py. When we run this, when we build the image and run it, we're going to call script.py. Okay, so boom, boom. I'll go to these comments later, but first I just want to show you what's going on here. Okay, so so that's self-explanatory. We got the Docker file. That's what that's doing. This is absolute minimalism here for development. And then Docker Compose. They have version 3 dot something, but right now I'm just sticking with version 2 because it's the simplest. And version 3 is more for orchestration. And I'm going to make some other videos that actually complement this one, which are related to getting data in and out through Python with containers that are also orchestrated, but not using Docker. But this is this is the gold standard framework by which all containers are judged. And I don't mean this like application I'm showing right now. I mean Docker. So I'm giving this as a baseline. But let's just go version 2 because we don't care about orchestration because I'm not going to orchestrate in Docker. So that's what version 3 is for. Version 3 is for orchestration. So and I do mean Swarm and its cousin Kubernetes and stuff like that. I'm not going to use that. Okay. So all right. So version 2. Services. You gotta set the services up. We're gonna call this any arbitrary name. We're calling it Python app. I could have called it app. I could have called it dog. It doesn't matter. But anyway, so Python app is the name of the app, and that's what it will be referred to in terms of the networking. So if I had like multiple, if I had like a Redis here for local storage, a memory cache, it would refer to Python app in the networking in its mesh layer when it networked. So that's Python app is it's like Python app is basically like the endpoint, like the API endpoint. So like if you hit www.google.com, like that's what this is. All right. So build means it says build and then dot just means the current directory. So the current directory of this Docker Compose file is this right here. So the build dot means the Docker file. So it's going to build the Docker file. That's what we had in there. Okay, it's going to build that. And then we're mapping a volume. And this is what we have to do in order to get interoperability with the script file, because we're going to change it on the fly without rebuilding or anything. Yeah. Okay. We got to do that. In a later video, which I haven't made yet, we'll show how we don't need to do any of this stuff or map volumes or do other stuff that's actually necessary to get file input output and like go into the Docker daemon ecosystem and like get images out and run them within this like ecosystem. No, just have a flat file, literally just a binary file that sits on your sits on your machine, and that you can run it. But that's for a different video. Okay, so here we go. Version 2, services Python app, build the Docker file, and we're gonna map a volume from the local directory, which is this directory here, and we're specifically going to refer to that file right there. We're gonna map this local directory to /app, and the reason I'm saying /app is because I set the working directory to /app. So this could be any arbitrary thing. I could have said /dog, but then here I would have to add /dog also, so that we're referring to the same thing. So whatever is in here is inside the container. Whatever is out here is referring to any number of containers, but whatever. This is the mapping. This is outside the container. This is inside the container. So after the colon there. All right. So let's go and run this thing. So we'll say Docker Compose. Let's go ahead and build. So this is going to be building the Docker file. So it's running through. It's saying it's grabbing the image. It's already got it. Okay, I built it. Okay. Now we'll say Docker Compose up. Okay. So it'll run. It'll say hello world. Okay. It just prints out and then exits it with a 0 code. 0 is good. Any non-zero code means there's an error, but 0 code means good. All right. So let's see. So we mapped the volume, got the Docker file, we copied. Okay, just one note, no, I'm not going to mention that right now. Okay, so we copied the script .py file into the working directory inside the container, and then we mapped it to this volume here. Okay, and now we have access to this file inside the container. So what I'll do is I'll say hello world 1, 2, 3. I'll save it, and then I'll go ahead and just run Docker Compose up without rebuilding it, and we'll see hello world 1, 2, 3. Okay, so if I would comment out the volumes here and then try to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then run that docker compose up, it'll stay 1, 2, 3. Oh, actually didn't stay 1, 2, 3 at all. It went back to hello world. I think it went back to the original of whatever was whatever it was compiled at originally is what happened. Okay, so you got completely. So we don't get any progress. So it's an incremental progress there. You have to rebuild it. If I rebuilt it here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 would be the base image, and then if I mapped it, I can make changes, and then I would see the changes here. But then, okay, that makes sense. I didn't even know that. I just found it out. Okay, on the fly. All right, so that's how that works. So that's what the volumes are for. I'm just gonna uncomment this, and then I'm gonna just talk about the Docker file real quick. Okay, so from Python, you get that. Workdir, get that. Copy, okay. There's a small thing. There's copy and there's add. And they do essentially the same thing, where you say copy from local to working directory, whatever the file is or whatever the folder is. But the best practices as of like April 2020, last time I checked, was that you're supposed to use copy instead of add, because add does some gobbledygook rigmarole that you're not supposed to use. So we're just using copy now, not add. Okay, now I'm going to comment out both entry point and command, as I explained before, and just use command here. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and rebuild this. Actually, Docker compose build. And I want to show you that the command and entry point, similar to copy and add, the command and entry point really are pretty much interchangeable. There are slight differences between them. If you want to go online and learn the differences, you can. In this case scenario, I can use entry point Python, that's the interpreter, command script, that's the program, and then use them together. Waterfall, one trickles down to here, and then we get our result. I could also just call command Python. So it runs the command Python as a string, and then it runs script.py as a string separately. It's basically like two commands, Python script.py, but these commands are passed to an interpreter, which is /bin/sh-c, which is the default for Linux machines, right? So it's passing. So basically, you're getting a shell. You're running -c, which almost sounds like command, but maybe it is. But anyways, it actually means string. And so you're passing to the entry point shell, which is a bash shell. You're passing it Python and then script.py. So it's saying shell, Python, script.py. So this is whatever. But anyways, command Python script.py, we tagged, we built, we tagged. Okay, let's run this thing. Docker compose up. Hello world 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so you can see that it's working now. I can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, and run it again. And it will continue to work after it's been built when I commented out the enter point and command and put both of them in the command inline there. Okay. Now it's the same for entry point. If I wanted to instead of using command, if I want to use entry point Entry point Python script.py, that's fine too. Entry point is supposed to be more like, what does it say here? Yeah. So opt app run.sh port 8080. This is okay. I don't know. That's some IntelliScript example, but it says it's supposed to configure the container to be an executable file. So if you want to just execute Python and script.py as opposed to command, whatever, you can look it up further, but I can show you. Okay, I'm going to save this. Let's go ahead and build. Should go quick. It's been built before. The image is the biggest part. It has to pull that down, but once it's pulled the image down, it's all over but the screaming and the shouting. Alright, so Docker Compose up and A90, and I'll just say it's a dog's life. I'm just living in it. Okay. That's for Christine Dolce, R.I.P. And let's go ahead and run that. She's a nice lady. So yeah, that's it. I think we went over that. So I will do some more stuff in the future, and I want to talk about doing some more cool stuff with I/O and Python and getting files, basically bringing a file in, having it run through a script, and then producing a file to go out. And doing it not through Docker, because with Docker you have to do a lot of stuff like mapping a volume, and there's other stuff like user. You have to change the user to be the same user in here. You'd have to say like you'd have to say run I don't even know the command that well. I'm not like a wizard, and I'm not like a lord of the scripts or anything, but basically have to run user command to change the user to be the current user, because um, by default Linux, or excuse me, Docker uses root to do all of this stuff. But then when you're running it with the file, you're using it as your own user. So your own user doesn't have access to the what you need. So you have to run inside. You have to set the user equal to you have to change the user to be equal to your user and set that up for everything to for it to be using the same user. So the user there and the volume mapping are the two big things that get in the way for doing file I/O with Docker, because Docker has everything happen inside the container. It doesn't like recognize anything that's on your host. It doesn't recognize anything in the local directory, like unless you map it and like the access to the file system inside the container, like I said, is root, but out here it's not. Like I'm not running as root. I'm running as myself. Like there is no root in Mac. Like I mean on Linux you could, but I suppose maybe I don't know enough to really tell you if you could run a root on Macintosh. Maybe you could. I don't know, but I've tried it before. I've not been able to do it. I don't think there really is a root. But anyway, the point is, it's a lot of hassle, and there's a better way. So I'll make another video about that a little later.